Can you believe you found the Rebirth Podcast? Here we are. This is where you learn to let go and let life lead. This is also a book if you like to have something at night because you know that what the concepts you put in your evening time will penetrate and infiltrate your dream space so that you wake up thinking, oh yeah, I'm ready to greet my day. You found the Rebirth Podcast. I'm Kate Brenton, the creator here. This episode is about a couple things. It's about the worthiness of your story, the power of the will, and why harnessing inspiration with discipline, why grabbing and honoring the whisper and then harnessing the will to see it through is truly a part of why we're here. If you are looking for places to harness your own ideas, I encourage you to hop on over to Kate Brenton website. I work with people one-on-one. We have Sit in Your Center is a class that is open now, so the container isn't open, but there will be an announcement later on this month about a larger, expansive way for women entrepreneurs, creatives, mothers, and leaders to get into an intimate, larger, in-depth container to help reharness their power, because we need you. But this episode is for everyone, and this is about creativity and the will. And of course, whenever I have an opportunity to talk about Steiner, put him right in there too. Thank you for tuning in to the Rebirth Podcast. If you receive benefit from this, do me a favor, hit like, share on your social medias. Let's get the word out that we're here to create the world that we want to live in. Thanks for listening. Thank you for tuning in to the Rebirth Podcast. This is a chat with Kate that is about creativity, but also at its essence, we're going to talk about the worthwhileness of your story. And your story ends up being something that dictates everything. In a couple episodes ago, I mentioned that I'm working with a business mastermind, and your story about what you're worth, what you can share, what your pricing is, will dictate what you offer in your business. What your story is dictates who you bring towards you in a partnership, and what your story is dictates how you parent, how you engage. So there's that aspect of story, right? The story changes the filter of perception and therefore changes your personal reality. You can call it whatever you want, but that's how the mechanism works. And then the other thing is the story. You can take that word story as the filter that is preventative, but there's also an opportunity for alchemy. And the story that you are needing to share, what you are needing to create, whether that is the story of a book or a business offering or all those things in an opposite fashion, is what you give back, what you perceive in your life. And then the story you share is what you give. And I'm here to tell you that whatever your story is, it's needed. And one of the funny things about writing is, and I might toggle back and forth between writing and business, is that we feel like, well, I want that story. I'll just keep it in writing. I want that story to reach everyone. But the reality is, the more specific you are, the better your writing is. The better your writing is, the more it's relatable to more readers. When you try to extend your metaphors, even as I'm toggling between business and writing, as you keep trying to include everyone, as you keep trying to make it super accessible to every palate, you lose. You can't make Italian food taste like Chinese food. You need to share your story as it is, in its specificity, in the way that it wants to be birthed through you. So I have a story for you. I'm flipping, scrolling is the right word. See how that changes your environment. I'm watching, I'm flipping, I'm scrolling. As soon as I say scrolling in the current context, that is a specificity that brings you right in to the moment. So I'm scrolling, and I see, shoot, I'm going to have to look up who this person is. I don't remember who they are. She kind of gives you like a cultivation of children's books, so that by category and different content. And because it is a scroll, that's why I don't remember her name. I just know when that box shows up that it's the book lady. And I do follow her, so I can get it for you if you're interested. But she just does random categories, and then she'll show 4 or 5 books, which as a parent is really helpful, because when you go into, I guess this goes back to specificity, like when we're learning something, I try to get books around a certain content area. I do that in my own life. And so I appreciate her filter. Anyway, this box scrolling lady had a content segment on single mothers. And I was like, oh, like what books are she? Here's my what books is she going to share about that? And she shared this book title, Kate and Nate Are Running Late. And it is visual. It's a picture of a mother holding a latte, clearly moving fast, with a boy in a baseball cap moving fast and a dog running alongside. I'm like, oh my God, it's literally me. Like the book cover is literally me. I am always late. One of my friends calls me Late Kate. My family sometimes would tell me something starts like 15 minutes difference, so I'd get there on time. But here's the thing about me and late. It's not that I'm not paying attention. And a lot of times I'll be in a flow. I can be very punctual at some things, and sometimes the moment coalesces and I go with it, right? I've tried to change it, and now I realize I can only change it when it's the necessity of specificity. Otherwise, it's actually, I've learned more in my flow state to go with fluid timing. That doesn't mean when you have an appointment or anything, but that means like sometimes I want to push an offer, but I actually have to pause, or I want something to be working out this time, or, I wanted to go to the park at this time, but actually it worked better for everybody. When I say everybody, I mean like the small people that I acquiesce and follow the timing of the moment. So I think time needs you to be present into what you're functioning as. Like if I have a Zoom meeting, I'm meeting a client, that's not a fluid time. If this happens to me in writing, sometimes I'll find that if I am working with somebody's piece, I won't feel that it's time to finish the editing process. And I don't do that really, mostly only with sit and write now, but I'll find out that like the writer will have an aha, and then I'll feel a clarity point, and we'll talk about, oh, what was the timing on that, and get a little bit into the resonance of personal clarity and how our external environment responds to it. So anyway, this book is called Kate and Nate Are Running Late, and it's by Kate Egan. And the fact that this woman's carrying a latte with a dog and a small male child, it's literally my story. She's trying to do too much in the morning, and she is late, and she's making pancakes and cutting pears and trying to get everybody, and she gets in the car and basically drops the kids off at school and realizes that it's Saturday. Here's the great thing about this book. It was pitched on a perspective, but if you open it and read it, she's not a single mom. And the inscription, I'm going to open it up real quick. The inscription of the book is for Jonathan, who always leaves early. So listen, the way she wanted to tell this story hit. It's not misleading. You go to her authorship and you find out, she's a writer and an editor who finds mornings very challenging, and she lives in Brunswick, Maine, with her husband and their 2 children. And this is her picture book debut. And so it relates to everyone. And the specificity of her experience related directly to me, and it won't always be me. And who you're speaking to, who you will directly hit if you follow your creative impulse, which taps you into a larger picture, will not always be exactly who you think it is, but it'll be exactly the right person. And that brings me to one other piece I want to talk to you about. If you're listening to this and you're creative, or you're thinking of doing something new or different, you weren't really sure where that impetus was coming from, or that specific whisper was coming from, I hope this is finding you today. And I hope it's giving you a little nudge to do it, to like, yeah, I don't need to know why I would have preferred to use green, but yellow was calling out to me, or I would have preferred to do a mastermind, but now I'm doing a one-on-one session, whatever it is, whatever that, I don't know why, but I hope you listen to that today. I really do. And I want to bring it back to a larger concept that I'm thinking about as our world is changing, and this idea of pulling an app and having the app create whatever you want. And I'm sure there's realms that this is fantastic in, and I'm learning that we're just all different types of humans, and there's different types of apps that I'm using now that I never thought I would have used before. Like I'm not using any of the ones that people are talking about on the major cutting edge of human consciousness, but here I am on a Zoom recording an audio file that's going to go on to a podcast, right? So Rudolf Steiner. So here's where I'm getting to. Rudolf Steiner was talking about how when you transfer from this life into the next one, whatever that means to you, there is a collected effort, energetic effort from what you have done. Many traditions talk about it's not how well you did it, but it's what intention you did it, and it's the element of the will. It's following the gut impulse. It's the Manipura chakra. It's the aperture of the lower dantian. It is following the impulse of what was right for you. And the really tricky thing, and I'm talking to some of my clients about this, in the subtle realms or the subtle development of energy and following your own intuition. And I'm saying that as a skill set. I'm not saying that I'm not woo. It's not woo, because anytime you get into a bigger container, your availability to lean on other people for specific insight sometimes evaporates, and you have to only listen to the whispers of your own being and your own moral aperture and your own discernment. And that is a cultivated skill. And that skill is cultivated by developing your own will. And you can develop your will as one that exerts power over, or it could be one that, how do I want to say, moves you through the world in concert with the rest of consciousness. So if we're always delegating out that which will build our will, we lose it. Like any other muscle that is not developed, it atrophies. And you're like, wait, how did we go from like a children's book to, because it's the same thing. Sometimes it's not the small story that you think is not, important because it won't be validated outside. You don't know the serendipity, the gateway of connection that you cultivating that creation, the development of intuition, of craft and will is a seed that you can't see how it sprouts later. It is a stitch, for the golden thread in a tapestry that you can't see yet, because that is part of the development of the muscle group, is that you can't lean on your physical reality of sight and guarantee. You need to move from the internal development of your will and your intuition and your knowing, if that is the sphere which you are here, where you're in concert with the development of all consciousness. I mean, that's who we are, but we have the free will, right? And we're seeing it now that we don't have to develop our will. We can say, hey, you know what? This is too hard for me to figure out on my own. I would like to give my power away to somebody else, and they will be happy to take it and tell you what to do with it. Whether that's a publisher, a politician, a partner, that is just the polarity of the human existence. There is always going to be an availability for some other thing to take your power and use it. That's totally an option here. But so is writing the story, putting a latte and a dog, not a cat, on the cover, making it feel joyful. Maybe it's a story you only create for yourself, and then you share it on a blog, or you share it on Substack, and then whoops, people are starting to like it, and then maybe put it into a podcast, or maybe you go to a retreat about writing, and that taps you into a whole reality about your own creativity and your own sense. These are the things that snowball. These are the things that are available to us when we sit down and make space for what is whispering, what is beckoning us. And something beckons, and it's tricky to then get the thing going. And what is the muscle that gets it go from the inspiration to completion, the inspiration to creation? It's the will. It's harnessing the will. So I wanted to talk to you today about that, and about, the affirmation. And I mean that as this: I'm affirming that the story that you are here to share is needed. Allow it, harness the will and the discipline to create it, and then release it into the world and see what comes back. If you're interested in having more help with your creativity and you're hearing this in March or April, I have space for 4 kind of insight sessions, doing smaller containers because Sit and Write will run again in spring of 2024. And that will be really the best way to work with me, and eventually will most likely be the only way to work with me with writing. But if you're interested in getting that refocus and looking at how you can kind of get into alignment with what your intention is and how to harness the will of it and create an action plan, that is something that I can help you with. And you can go onto my website, katebrennan.com, and go look on for a refocus session. So that can be for creativity or content development. Or, I'm getting quiet because a lot of people are sending me emails about, I just want to feel connected to myself again, and I know that I harness masterminds and peers and things and meditation practices to clear enough space inside of my brain that I can continue to listen to the whispers and trust that I'm moving from a will that is interested in harmony, and that even when I can't see it, is building the world and the legacy, no matter how small or how big, that I will be proud to turn around and look a part of, to say, okay, I did that. Where I created harmony and not harm. So write your story, enjoy your day, and I'll see you back here real soon. Thank you for tuning into the Rebirth Podcast. If you enjoy these stories and ingesting inspiration because you understand that what you bring into your field magnifies your field, go on over to Amazon and click on Rebirth, the book, and bring it into your home and share it with your community.